So, welcome to this very beautiful exchange that I will be putting on various mediums, my own YouTube channel, but also the Menopause Queen channel. I am so delighted to have with me today my very beautiful friend, Julia Anastasio, with whom I will be doing for the first time ever a retreat next year, which we will talk about in this. But Julia and I have known each other for many years. First of all, Julia, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Charlotte, for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
Julia is one of these shiny, grounded, beautiful goddesses that I met many years ago. I think it was Shiva Ray teacher training. I think that was it, wasn't it? We've done other things since.
Yes,
And she's
absolutely.
one of these people, I've been told I'm similar, but she's one of these people that you just notice from her energy. Of course, you can see her hair, very similar color to
Mm.
mine, but that's not it. There's an energy about Julia that really attracted me to her. And we've grown kind of over the years. And it's many years now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think we first met probably in about 2013.
2013, yes. Around that time, wasn't it? 12, 13, probably. I think I had Melody already. So I sort of base it on my children.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, you definitely had both girls.
I definitely had both girls. Right. Okay. So yeah, it was probably around that time then. Yeah. And we've kind of grown like this. Julia has even like a wealth of experience that I can hardly contemplate in terms of um, therapy work, in terms of coaching work, in terms of wellness work, in terms of sacred feminine. Yes, she's got the yoga side of things, but she has been recently redoing her website. I'm going to share this with you because it's funny. Because you said to me in a message, when you start to strip away some of those things, I'm not sure what's left. But that all stays there, doesn't it? We're the sum total of everything that we've learned and have offered in the past. But we do evolve and we do shift. What is the work that you are focusing on now, Julia?
Yeah, that's really interesting that you mentioned my website because prior to its little facelift, people would land there and they would see everything that I've done because I've been a practitioner now probably for 32 years. So people wouldn't know where to go, how to navigate, between the yoga, the Ayurveda, the coaching, the divine feminine, the sacred retreats and pilgrimages. So it was a big decision. And what was the trickiest thing for me was my loss of identity. So,
Mm.
for so many years, I had identified as a yoga teacher and a yoga teacher trainer, holding trainings here in the UK and also teaching in the ashram out in India where I did my training. So I felt like if I was to strip all of that away, like what remains? So it was probably about 2 years of vacillating between, and this has gone through like my menopause. So I stopped bleeding in probably 4 years ago now. So through this transition, I've had to really tune in to the core of who I am. When everything falls away, what is it that remains?
I love that. I love the fact that you mentioned the menopause being part of that because it's such a crucial part, I think, of our evolution as women, because we're not going to forget what we've to ourselves, the good, the bad, the ugly, the interesting, the amazing. But we evolve and we want to evolve and we want to change during that time. I don't know if you found that.
Yeah, absolutely. And some things happen organically. Some
Yeah.
things just fall by the wayside, and that could be friendships, relationships, the way that we work, the way that we kind of like entertain ourselves, right? What we do for fun. And then
That's
it
really funny that you say that. What we do for fun. That's so funny. It does completely change, doesn't it?
absolutely. And because my working life and my kind of like spiritual life, they're very much enmeshed. I don't have sort of like, oh, this is what I do when I'm working, and this is what I do when I'm living, like, outside of work. Like my philosophy and my ethos are very, very similar. So that was like the very delicate unpicking of those threads. And ultimately, I had to come back to my soul essence and my mission and my purpose here and step into that. And that was a bit scary, Charlotte, because
Mm.
I was then sort of like broadcasting to the world that, yeah, not only do I teach yoga, meditation, and a holistic therapist and a life coach, but actually I have like a deeper purpose and a meaning for being here. And that declaration, yeah, that took a little bit of courage.
How would you describe this? Is interesting because I work with quite a lot of women, both in my training, yoga teacher training, but also in the sort of coaching groups and the little women's circles that I hold space in. And very often I ask them to define themselves, either in a really short Instagram style biography or in a slightly longer, more sort of rich and in-depth
Yes.
text.
Yes.
How would you describe yourself now then, Julia?
Well, now I have to really own and honor the fact that I am a spiritual being having a
Mhm.
human experience. That this is more than just breathing, that I am here to be a guide, to be a light, to hold sacred space, to allow women to heal in the energy of sacred circle and to recognize that my experiences through this lifetime are important for other women to learn from and for us to walk side by side. So, moving away from competing and actually collaborating energetically with women. So, just really honoring that divineness within me as a woman.
I love that. And that's definitely the shift that I felt during the menopause as well. There was a kind of dropping away of certain people that I've worked with in the past. Very much like you just said, didn't want the competition. I didn't want the people piggybacking on your success or your ideas for their own gain. The whole point is that we're trying to nourish each other. We're trying to collaborate. What, like you said, walk together. That's all of the ancient stories, and we'll talk about some of what we're going to do next year and what you have experienced many times before, but in a second. But the ancient myths, the stories of the Selkies, the shape-shifting women, the well keepers, etc. These are not just myths, but these are often facts as well. That was such a long time ago, and it was very much the women of the drums, the women who were the circular, not rulers, though that wasn't it. They were sort of guiding for a bit like Durga, for the good of all. There wasn't the competitive edge, there wasn't the top down power. And there
Yeah.
is definitely a shift back to that. And like you're one of the guides for that, I feel that I have a role as well in that I have dared to also start talking about using the language of the soul when I guide meditations. That I mean, never used to dare to do that before because I was like, people are going to think that I'm smoking some wacky backy or something. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And you suddenly go, no, I have to own this.
Yeah. And
It's
and
so important.
yeah, and for me, I think it probably happened in 2020.
Mm,
Because I was taken out of my environment. I was teaching in India and I couldn't get back to the UK. So
mm,
I found myself there for an extended period of time. And I write about this in my book, The Mandala of Wisdom. And what happened was when I returned, I started to teach online. And in my garden, I've got this small yurt. She's falling down now. But for 3.5 years, I sat physically on the earth every day of the year and I taught. So a lot of my teachings have come through the masculine line, Hatha
mm,
yoga and all of that. And there, the great Mother Earth started to physically speak through my root chakra. I
mm,
was feeling her vibration, her frequency, and I would have these glimpses of inspiration. And I would think to myself, just like you said then, I can't possibly say that. I can't possibly, sort of like guide them to do this whole thing. And then the message was clear. Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
Because I was sitting in a circle on this ancient land. We've got a Neolithical tumulus behind our house. So
Wow.
obviously there's been like, some migration of energy. It's not that far away. It's literally like I could throw a stone and hit it.
No, that must be.
So it's palpable. The energy here on Shooters Hill in Greenwich, it's palpable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that then became the guide. And it wasn't anything that happened overnight. And I
Mm,
think this is really important, for us to really recognize it's about consistency. Our
mm,
practice is always about consistency,
mm,
showing up day after day, regardless of how we're feeling, but just getting to our mat, sitting on our cushion,
mm,
doing what it is that really lights us up.
mm,
And then this like blossoming started to take shape as I stopped bleeding. I was lucky in the sense that I still had some opportunity to collect my moon blood. So as the earth was talking to me, I was still able to kind of give back to her and to honor
mm,
her for
mm,
about 18 months. And then it just stopped. And
mm,
I thought, okay, so you've made this shift now. Oftentimes people speak about like the three phases of womanhood,
mm,
maiden, the mother, the crone. But we know, right, that there's another phase. There's that autumn phase of the maga, of the enchantress, of the wild woman. And I really felt myself as the wild woman. Like
mm,
my boys had been to university, they'd come back, they were back home, they were looking for jobs. I had this great sense of independence. I knew who I was as a woman, um, and just stepped into this higher role because that's what source, energy,
mm,
universe, great mother wanted me to do. And
mm,
so initially, I looked outside of myself. I looked outside of myself to say, okay, so who could possibly be a guide for me? And I couldn't really find anybody that I totally aligned with for whatever reason. And then the calling was to come back home to yourself, come back to your heart, rest in the cave of your heart, because there you will know this deep inner knowing. You will tune into your gnosis, and that's what happened. And it's
mm,
grown now, and I see myself, right, as somebody who can hold this space for other women who are
mm,
transitioning. So whether that's through a retreat, a pilgrimage, or through spiritual coaching, life coaching, whatever, but to really be able to honor that. I'm not crone, I'm not elder, I'm in this phase where I'm able to alchemize.
So I call that the queen phase.
Okay.
So, and I've called it that for a very, very long time. And I'll tell you a little example of niggling, you know, ego-y type thing recently. This year I launched this whole approach of the queen because like you, I thought there's not three phases of womanhood. That's just bullshit. There's no way in my 50s that I'm going to turn around and say I'm a crone or even a hag or even anything like that. No way. This autumn phase or the second spring, as they often call it in
Yes.
Asia, is to me like a whole queendom. You suddenly can sit in your queendom on your throne and go, I am who I am. I know who I am, and I am going to honor that. Not just, like you said, not just for me,
Yeah.
but for those around me. And you spoke about didn't dare say anything. I hadn't. I was very physical, I suppose. Not always physical, but there's always a physical aspect, a performance aspect, maybe in the past, or there's got to be some kind of goal at the end of it, kind of scenario. Whereas as I reached the menopause, and now as I taught all the way through it, and as I now teach going forwards, I think if you sit in
Mm.
your roots and in your wisdom, and you teach from that base, you could pretty much teach anything
Yes.
to the people in front of you because you're doing it from an authentic, truthful space, and it comes across in your voice
Yeah.
and it comes across in your energy. The moment you start to try, if you suddenly started to teach an Ashtanga practice, people would be
Right.
like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
You know,
that's
do you
how
know
I
what I
felt.
mean? They were just like,
Absolutely.
there's no, that's not right. That's
No,
not the same person, you know?
no, it's about honoring your sovereignty. And I think there's fear there, right? Because when we have the courage to step into this power,
Yeah.
yeah, some
And it
people
is power, isn't it?
is,
It really is power. I heard this woman recently said, if we stopped following the idea that we have to stay young forever with the
yeah,
Brucci products, with the blah, blah, blah. And I know both you and I do faced yoga, but we don't necessarily do it from that for that outer beauty point of view. I think that's quite an important thing to say.
yeah,
I did it from a self-confidence point of view because I was going through the menopause and I had skin cancer. You were
yeah,
my teacher during that, and it really helped me. That
yeah,
did, but also the circle of women that was there every
yeah,
morning. We've talked of that. That's so important. Finding your tribe, finding your circle.
yeah.
And then knowing, and you talked about feeling wild. When
Mm,
I was going through the heart of my menopause, and I still get it every now and then in the evening, I honestly went to bed every night as if I was in the forest. I would
mm,
get into bed and I could visualize it, feel it even. It was like I was putting, like, furs and branches and leaves over me. And I was kind of like disappearing into the forest bed every night. And I absolutely felt it. And I
mm.
loved it. I used to love, I've got shivers actually when I say it, 'cause I used to love that feeling. And it was like I was going back into that wild part of me.
Beautiful.
Question about your yurt. It's
Oh, yeah.
falling down. Is that symbolic? Do you think?
Ah, bless. Well, I
The
did get that.
end of an era,
The
Julia?
end of an era. So a few things happened. I bought it in 2011. It's actually from Mongolia.
Oh, wow.
And so, it would be nearly 15 years old. But a couple of years, 2 years ago, a vixen in our garden had 8 cubs. And I don't know, health and safety wise, what's gone on in those foundations. So I stopped offering things for other people for that.
Right.
And because a lot of it is wood, like, the door would swell and one thing and another, I could possibly go in and give it a little bit of a magic zhuzh, but it also feels as well that that's the end of that phase.
That's what I feel. Yeah, that's when you said that. I feel that. The other thing I'd like you to just do before we do go into Avalon, because I know your time
Yes.
is limited, but your book, you mentioned it. Please show it. Please show it.
So, yes,
Because
so
we're not
here's
very good at that, are we? You and I.
No, 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 I'm not very good at
Publicity.
this. Yeah. So it's called the Mandala of Wisdom, Everyday Sacred Living for the Modern Mystic.
Love it.
So it's based on elemental earth-based teachings. It talks about the phases of the moon. It speaks a lot about the mandala of wisdom, like the medicine wheel, how we can use the elements and the directions, which also links right with the phases of womanhood when we recognize that everything is secular,
Mm,
and how, for me, the spiral is so powerful. And I've called a lot of my offerings spirals for many years because it's more than a circle, because we
mm,
keep on going past, don't we, like a certain lesson or a
exactly. Yeah.
certain awakening that takes place. So it was something that I knew I had in me. And it came out, I self-published it on Amazon in it came out on summer solstice today this year, so June the 21st. So it's doing really well, but because I've self-published it, it kind of like it requires a lot of self-marketing.
It does. It always does. But honestly, even if you go with a publisher, you
Yeah.
have to do a lot of it yourself anyway. I think unless you're like super well known,
Yes.
anyone has to do that. Now, I would love to talk about Avalon. So,
Yes.
Julia is passionate about the Magdalene energy.
Mm.
I'm a novice to it and I love it. And I have loved it for many years, but I'm still very novice to it. And Julia's done various pilgrimages, both in the UK and in France, and I think in Spain a little bit. Was it
Yeah. Yeah.
Spain? That looked
Mm.
beautiful, by the way. That's on the bucket list. That one.
Yeah.
But we have decided to do a pilgrimage, and there are a few spaces left next year. It may be the start of a biannual thing that we do. I don't know, but we just both felt that it would be a really amazing thing to do, rather selfishly, because we quite like to do it with each other. And then we thought, well, we can share this really. And so we've already got some lovely ladies who've joined the idea of this. Can
Mm.
you give me some of your thoughts and feelings on the trip that we've organised, that sort of area that we've organised? It's in Glastonbury, Avebury, Salisbury, all around Stonehenge, etc. So why is it so potent there? And what is the calling that we're following, as it were?
Yeah. So whenever we go on retreat, whenever we go on pilgrimage, whenever you go on a holiday or a trip somewhere, we often feel like we're going to a land or a place, a destination to bring something back from. This is different.
Mm,
This is for the woman who's ready to leave a part of herself on these sacred lands.
mm,
So, how does that feel like each time you journey to know that it's not what you're going to take, but it's actually what you're going to leave behind and what you're going to give? So, I became connected to Glastonbury because of the Magdalene energy, because of the Michael Mary lines, the ley lines, the energy that was there. I couldn't initially, this is before I'd done all of my research and my reading and my travels, I couldn't understand how Magdalene could possibly have walked the shores of England and been to Glastonbury. Like, how could that possibly have happened?
mm,
She was from the Holy Land. So many years later, I totally understand how that happened. And there's a draw for me. So Charlotte spoke a little bit about the well keepers. There are two sacred wells in Glastonbury. We've got the White Spring, which is at the base of the Tor, and we've got the Chalice Well, which is just across the road. So these two streams of water flow, the red and the white. So there you've got like the masculine and the feminine energy, the
mm,
lunar and the solar. It goes back to that earth-based medicine. Um, Within within the lands, there is a sacredness that
mm,
when we stop and when we listen and we sit and we breathe and we practice, we receive what I would call a code, a frequency, an activation, an awakening. If we soften into this, and it's happened to me on numerous occasions, so it keeps on calling me back. People
mm,
also say as well that Glastonbury is the heart chakra of the world, and I can see why. So when we walk these ancient lands, whether that's Avebury, so these stone circles are open there. That's like a beautiful, spacious energy. Traveling then into Glastonbury and exploring all of those ancient lands, and then coming. And we have a private session in the White Spring, so just for our group, which is really beautiful. So that basically means that we have about an hour where we can do private dipping, private ceremony, some drumming, some cacao. That in itself is
mm,
extraordinary to be able to do that.
mm,
And and then closer to the time, I'll be able to book us spaces to get to the inner circle of Stonehenge, which you can only really do 4 times a year at the solstice and the equinox. But that again, it's about connecting to the energy and then to imbue that energy within oneself, and then it's like a co-creation, like what can you offer? So
mm,
to me, this is all about empowering ourselves as the divine feminine, that
mm,
strong, courageous, sovereign woman, who's prepared to walk the lands, who's prepared to listen. Now, I've walked many miles in France because that's where Magdalene landed after the Holy Land, and then she travelled on and visited Glastonbury. And this year, the Black Madonna started to speak to me, and that's why I ended up traveling through France and ending up in Montserrat.
Mm,
So this is about any pilgrimage or any pilgrimage that we do for, I believe, is about a deep connection, and it's a calling of the soul. It's
mm,
more than, oh, this is a place that I really want to visit. It's actually something that's deeper than that. It's cellular. It's a remembrance. It's a memory in your cells that's asking you to take that journey. So Egypt's calling me, right? And it has done for many, many years, but that's on the back burner because I want to
mm,
do that right. So, something in Europe, right? It's easy for us to get there.
mm,
Also, there's a difference when we become a solo traveler
mm.
and then traveling with a group, with a community, with a circle, and also traveling with a guide who has walked this land many, many times. You know,
Mm.
it's very different because you could go to Glastonbury, but to go to Glastonbury with a group of women, honoring the lands and with a guide who knows the way, who doesn't want to walk into the forest with a torchbearer. Mm.
Exactly. And I think that was what really has drew me. So, as you know, I was born in the UK, but I've lived now for 25 years in France. And I was definitely called to here and called to the different places that I have lived in and that I am living in. And I know that there is going to be another shift
Yeah.
in the next few years. So, although I absolutely love where I live now, I know that there will be another move, but I haven't quite worked out where yet.
Yeah.
Me and my partner haven't, but he's totally up for the next sort of phase. Um, and I think that's it. It's the answering of a calling. But I do feel, although I will never move back to the UK, I just cannot see myself ever doing that. There is a calling to come back to the roots that are there. And it kind of started, I think, a few years ago when I went on a holiday with my family in Devon, so further along, but on the coast there.
Mm.
And that coast path and the energy, even just the visuals of all of that Jurassic coast in the
Mm.
UK started to call me. And it was at a time that I just lost my partner who'd taken his life, and I was really raw, I think, in my emotion, or possibly even quite empty in my emotion, and I needed some visceral reminder and calling. And I think it really started then, now with hindsight. So when, we've both gone on the odd, you've gone on a lot, but I've done a few different bits of what we could call the Magdalene journey or the Magdalene way, retracing her steps. And then this idea came up for Avalon. There's like a union, isn't there? There's the feminine calling, there's my home roots,
Yeah.
and there's all that sacred calling. But like you said, I'm not looking to take anything from it.
Yeah.
I am certainly looking to just sit with it and see what I need to leave there or
Yeah.
I need to give there. And the other women on the trip are all of the same mindset. And
Yes.
one woman who you'll obviously meet next year, she told me that when she was little, so I mean quite little, her aunt took her on this trip.
Wow.
And her aunt, I've got shivers, her aunt like was absolutely a fan. I think she was quite religious, but
Mm.
she was so devoted to this Magdalene energy and to the whole ancestry of that land. And she took Patricia with her and did this journey. She said, I can't remember all of it, but I
Mm.
remember parts of it. And I
Yeah.
just, when this came up, she was like, well, that's it,
Yeah.
that I have to go back.
Mm.
There's no way I can not do this trip.
Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating?
It's fascinating, and I think you've also hit on a point. This has got nothing to do with religion.
No.
No,
No.
Magdalene and her energy, she is the divine leader. And
Mm,
the more that I research, read about her, experience her in the quantum field, the more that I know that in my bones, this is beyond that. This is who she was as an archetypical sovereign woman,
Mm,
and she was the way shower.
mm.
Mm.
So, if you can feel the calling, I suppose is the way of saying it, then
Yes.
please get in touch with either myself or Julia. It doesn't particularly matter. But get in touch with us, because really that's who we're inviting to join this.
Mm.
It's not like a normal, there's a yoga retreat, or here's a holiday you can come on, or this is a pilgrimage.
Mm.
This is very much about creating, you talked about groups. This is right about creating a circle,
Yes.
like a sacred circle where things will be said and done during that time. And yes, the circle will close, but the spiral will keep going, either individually or collectively. And I think that's a beautiful idea. I like the idea of that spiral. It's
Mm.
very Aboriginal as well, isn't it? They talk about that in their prayer, so that the circle may be closed, but the spiral may continue. I think that's a beautiful image.
Yeah.
Julia, is there the last couple of things that you would like to say about being in the menopause, I
Mm.
suppose, or coming out of the menopause? Is there anything that you can maybe say that might just help guide, trigger someone
Yeah.
who is in that phase of their life at the moment?
First thing I would say to you is slow down.
Mm,
Then I would say, look at your environment. What are you eating? Who do you spend time with? What energy are you ingesting as well as what food are you ingesting? How much time do you spend in nature? And see yourself as a sacred being going through the most beautiful metamorphosis of your life. And don't be afraid of the heat, right? The heat is the awakening of the Shakti, that divine, creative Kundalini force. When we can embrace it, we can embody it. When we fear it, it's going to keep on showing up for us. So slow
mm.
down, breathe, meditate, take care of yourself, honor yourself as the sovereign woman that you are.
Love it.
Mm.
That's exactly what I would have said. It's so true, though, isn't it? And I think that first one is so important. Slow down. I think we spend too much energy and time on trying to keep going with the person that we have been up until that point.
Mm.
But that's not the point of the menopause. And that's the uncomfortable bit, is that you have to shed some of those layers and responsibilities and things you used to do really, really well and easily. But that
Mm.
doesn't mean you're not going to do some other wonderful things. I think that's some things that I didn't quite get, was that there's an afterwards. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No one really sort of says that to you. They sort of go, oh, it's menopause, and it's as if it's going to be like that forever.
Yeah.
But it's so not.
No.
And that transitional period, you and I both did that naturally, and I have nothing against anyone taking any form of help medication. But I think there's something quite special about feeling it,
Yeah.
as uncomfortable as it can be.
Mm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Julia, thank you. Thank
Thank
you. I cannot wait to see you. I
you.
cannot wait. It
Mm.
feels like it's going to be ages, and it won't be. It'll be like tomorrow kind of thing.
It will.
It will. So thank you for this wonderful exchange. You
Ah,
can get Julia's book. I'll have to put a little link underneath.
yes. Well,
And it's on Amazon, right?
yes, it is. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Show it
Ah,
again so that we can recognize the cover. Show
okay.
your book again.
Okay.
There we
Very
go.
good. Yeah.
You have to realize these are Julia's colors as well. She often
Yes.
wears black, right?
Yeah.
But these are her colors. So she's got the most amazing house that I've never been in, but I have pretty much seen every room of her house
Ah,
on Zooms.
yeah,
And
that's true.
in this one, you can see the beautiful colors from the book in the background and the wallpaper. Her bathroom is to die for.
Ah,
I love it. Thank you, darling. Thank you so
thank you,
much.
Charlotte. Thank you so much.
Mwah.
Thank you, love.